Hey guys, my name is Jake. I just want to do a quick intro video seeing as this is my first video about diabetes. So I've been a diabetic for almost 15 years now, and really what I'm hoping to achieve with this channel, I'm kind of hoping to become the Marquise Brownlee of diabetes tech. I want to review tech. I want to give my thoughts on tech. Because technology really helps in the life of a diabetic. It makes knowing what your blood sugar is and how to treat that blood sugar so much easier. And I also want to give a huge shout out to Michelle Lord. I've watched a lot of her videos. Her channel is really inspiration for these videos. She's awesome, but she doesn't really focus too much on the tech, and that's kind of the void that I'm hoping to fill with this. So please just make sure to like, subscribe, comment, do all the things that you can to engage with the channel, as it will help YouTube push this to other viewers. So thanks guys, enjoy. So about the title, I know it's a little bit clickbaity and people tend to get pretty triggered by clickbait, so I just want to clear it up right away. For the past year, I've been on a clinical trial for the 670G pump, and while I technically I'm not getting paid to use the pump, I'm getting paid for my time and travel to the office visits and also like the phone calls and stuff. I really do see it as getting paid to use and try out this technology, because I get paid $50 for like a 30-minute office visit, and let's be real, $100 an hour is pretty generous. And I also have gotten a couple $1,000s of free pump supplies. So that's what I mean when I say that I got paid to use the 670. So I think the easiest way to talk about this pump would be to just do a classic pros and cons list. So I want to start out with the cons first. There's really three major cons. First one being exercise, second one being notifications, and third being the sensor. So exercise, and I just want to get this right out of the way. I realize that I am far more active than most people. I try to run at least 5.5 miles 3 or 4 days a week, and then I also play basketball for 2 hours. Obviously I like sit in between games and stuff, but I play basketball for 2 hours twice a week, and that's not really an issue when I play basketball. I disconnect my pump when I play basketball just because I worry about someone like going for a steal and swiping the cord and stuff like that. But it's really just been an issue when I've been running. So when I started using the sensor in just day-to-day life and started to be in auto mode, they told me about a mode called temp basal, that I should go in an hour before I exercise, during exercise, and an hour after exercise. Basically what temp basal does is it raises your target blood sugar from 120 to 150, which makes sense because when people exercise they tend to go low. And so I started doing that, and I would notice about 10-15 minutes into my run, my blood sugar would just drop like a rock. So obviously that's not ideal, and so what I started to do was I would go into temp basal 2 hours before, and kind of the same thing happened. As soon as I started that run and got like 10-15 minutes in, I would just start falling really fast. So what I ended up actually having to do, I have to not have any insulin in my system. Like I have to have zero active insulin before I start my run. I have my pump suspended for about an hour before I go, and since I've done that, it's been okay. I still go a little low though. It's just been frustrating because before I wore CGM, before I was in auto mode, this wasn't an issue, and maybe it's just because my blood sugars tended to run a little higher before, but it's been very frustrating. So number two, notifications. Obviously the point of CGM is to notify you whenever something's going on with your blood sugar, whether it's low, high. That's not the notification I'm talking about. It's really the main problem here is how it handles notifications. I'm going to insert a little clip right now, and I'll speed it up. basically that clip is showing that it's about 45 seconds. I get the alert, it vibrates, it beeps, then I ignore it, and literally 45 seconds later it goes off again. And that's a problem because it's really annoying. Like, if I'm driving, first of all, I'm not going to just be able to check it right away. And it should give you more than 45 seconds in between notifications. So also with that, the reason that I have both vibration and beeping turned on is because I have vibration on because I like to feel the on-body alerts. And on the pump that I was using before that, the 523, it just had vibration on, and that was what I had on with this pump initially. For some reason, this pump does not vibrate to let you know that the pump is suspended, something that my 523 did. And so this is probably just me, but I forget to unsuspend my pump. So like I'll suspend my pump, take it off when I take a shower, and I'll hook it back up, but I'll just forget to unsuspend it. 523, it's not a problem, vibrate, let me know that it didn't. 630G, it wouldn't, and so I wouldn't be getting insulin, and sometimes I'd even go to bed without even realizing, and my blood sugar would just skyrocket. So that is why I have to have both vibration and the beeping on, which is very annoying. Now, my other big complaint with the notifications is that the notifications don't go away even if the event that caused the notification did. So for example, and I just want to get this out right away, is that you can suspend the notifications. So like if you're just like, I just want like a peaceful night of sleep, I don't want to be interrupted, do that. You say, don't alert me for the next 9 hours. And you can do that. I don't like to do that. I like to get my notifications because I like to wake up when my blood sugar is low so I can treat it, or like to wake up when my blood sugar is high so I can treat it. But the real problem here is that, so like I'll get an alert that my blood sugar is 223, I go just a little bit high. And so I'll get the beeping, I'll get that. Now I'm a very, very heavy sleeper, so I will just sleep through it for a couple hours, and then finally it'll wake me up. I'll check and I'll be like, okay, I'm high, gotta go give myself some insulin, gotta take care of that. But then I'll dismiss the alert and see that my blood sugar is like 163, and that is incredibly frustrating. It's been beeping for the last couple hours. It finally woke me up and interrupted my sleep, and it doesn't even require any action. The notification just didn't go away, which is really frustrating. So just one more little rant about the notifications, and I'm going to insert a clip right here so you can see what I'm talking about. So as you saw in that video, it notified me not once but twice that it was high sensor glucose, and you have to press OK, wait a couple seconds, press OK again for it to dismiss each and every notification. So 2, high sensor glucose, and then it told me that it kicked me out of auto mode, and then it told me that it needs another blood sugar from like an actual blood sugar meter. And like I'm already cranky as it is when my blood sugar is high, but these like bombardment of notifications and the having to hit OK twice and it being a pain to dismiss, it gets really annoying. So now for con number 3, the sensor, and this is probably by far my biggest complaint. The sensor is not very good. So just a little history about me and my use of CGM. When it first came out, I got on the original Dexcom, used it for some time. When the Dexcom G2 came out, or the second generation, I don't remember what they called it, G2, I got on that, and I actually got off of it because, for me at least, the second generation was a lot worse than the first one. I felt like the sensors didn't last as long. I felt like it was way less accurate. And I hadn't really used CGM since then. I did use like a blinded like G4 for a trial I did not too long ago. One of the biggest problems for me with the Dexcoms was that the sensor insertion was incredibly painful, especially for a kid that was as young as me. I just remember it hurting so bad. And even when I did the trial a couple of years ago, even though I was in my early 20s, it still was very painful. I gotta say, that's something that I really liked about the Guardian sensor, was insertion was really a piece of cake. It had the spring-loaded inserter, and it was really relatively painless. The taping system was a little awkward, but it for the most part kept the sensor in place, so that was good. So really my complaints with the sensor boil down to two things. It's accuracy and sensor life. The first one, accuracy. This thing is, I mean, sometimes it's accurate, but sometimes it's not. I mean, I would always calibrate at the right times, wait till my blood sugar's level in a good range, not moving. And I don't know, it just would not give me accurate readings. I would be on like the second day of the sensor and I would be off 60. And most of the time it's reading lower than what my blood sugar is actually good. And safety wise, that's a good thing. I remember one time I was on day 2 of the sensor. My sensor showed that I was 260. I tested and I was only 200. So being 60 lower than what my sensor was reading was actually kind of terrifying. Because what if I had been 90 and I was reading 150 and it was giving me insulin like I was 150? I mean, that's a safety concern, because my blood sugar is going to go low. And being 60 off is a little bit extreme. I don't want to make it sound like it happened all the time, but it wasn't all that rare. Usually it was off, 10 to 20, somewhere in that range, which that's acceptable. But really my biggest problem with the sensor is the sensor life. So just to give you guys a frame of reference, a box of 5 sensors costs $550 or $110 per sensor, and they're supposed to last for 7 days. For me, I was using the system for 6 months. There was 2 times that I actually had a sensor last for 7 days. I got the notification that the sensor expired. I would say on average 5 days was pretty normal. So 5-day sensor at $110, that is $22 per day. And again, of not very accurate readings. And I know that the vast majority of people using the system are going to have insurance that helps subsidize that cost, and I totally understand that. But that is just outrageously expensive for what you're getting. Now that compared with the Dexcom G6, which lasts 10 days, requires 0 finger sticks, and is way cheaper, that's really bad. Now, the big thing here is the 5 days, and really not only the cost, but getting a new sensor set up really is such a process. So you have to take the old one out, you have to let the transmitter charge for roughly a half hour, and then you put a new one in. You have to wait 2 hours for it to warm up, then you wait another about 2 to 4 hours, and then it asks for a calibration to put you into auto mode. And then within another 4 hours, it's going to ask you for another calibration, just to confirm that it's on the right track. But that means, like, say a sensor goes bad at 6 o'clock, let it charge till 6:30, put a new one in. 2 hour warm up puts you at 8:30. 2 to 4 hours later puts you at like 10:30 to 12:30. And then it's going to wake you up at 4:30 in the morning again to ask you for another calibration just to make sure it's on the right track. It's not really feasible to start a new sensor at night, which means that you got to wait till the next morning, and you got to be able to break away at work to do all these calibrations. and you have to just go that night without the sensor in, which oftentimes is when you really do need auto mode. Alright, so that's enough negatives, so let's talk about some positives. I briefly mentioned this before, but sensor insertion really is easy and pretty painless. Some people don't like the taping. For me, it was awesome. It is a little awkward, but not one time did I have a sensor actually fall out or stop working because it came loose. Sensors were always in place. By far the biggest positive for me was nighttime. Even if I went to bed a little high, nights were pretty much perfect. You know, if I gave myself way too much insulin, I'd still wake up low, or if I ate a whole lot before I went to bed and didn't give myself enough insulin, I'd still go high. But the vast majority of nights, my blood sugar was just a straight line, perfect 120 the entire night, and that was just incredible. Just being on CGM in general, my knowledge of what certain foods did to my blood sugar and when my blood sugar spiked after exercise, just there's a whole lot of new knowledge gained just by wearing a sensor. Before going on the 670G, my A1C was usually in the high 8s. When I first started the trial, for the first 6 months, I wasn't on the sensor, so I didn't have auto mode, I didn't have CGM. And I kind of mentioned that it wouldn't tell me when I was suspended and there were some other problems. It was just a transition period. My A1C actually spiked quite a bit. It was in the high 9s before I was on the sensor, which is pretty bad. But once I actually got on the sensor and got in auto mode, my 3/4 of the way through was low 8s. I think it was 8.1, maybe it was 8.2. I haven't got my final A1C yet, but if I had to guess, I would say it was probably mid to high 7s. So pretty drastic improvement versus what I was using before. Auto mode in general is pretty great. Maybe I just had some unrealistic expectations going in. I thought it would just notice right away when I started to go up and taper me off right away. I'd never go above 200. That's I guess just wasn't realistic. You know, if you don't give yourself insulin when you eat food, especially if it's high carb food, your blood sugar is still going to spike. What auto mode did for me though is it really stabilized those swings. It made me so I went, you know, maybe up to 250 instead of 300. And you know, if I gave myself too much insulin, maybe I just went down to 80 instead of down to 60. Just little changes, but overall they did help tremendously. And when it comes to positives, I mean, that's really about it. It might seem like there's a lot of frustrations compared to the few positives, but those positives have been really awesome. And I've been off of that system for about 2 weeks now, and I just gotta say, I missed it so much more than I thought I would. So like I mentioned, being on the system, my numbers were much better. You know, A1C was overall about a point lower than where I started. And I guess I expected to just feel way better, have way more energy when my numbers improved. But I really didn't. Maybe that's just because it happened gradually. But I gotta say, the 2 weeks that I've been off the system and I haven't had to get control of my blood sugar have just been horrible. And I miss that system so much. So you might be wondering whether I'd recommend the system or not, and I just want to do a huge disclaimer here. I'm not a doctor by any means. I'm nowhere near a doctor. Always do your own research before you buy a new pump. Always consult with your doctor, and don't just listen to some guy on YouTube. Do your own research. This is a really complicated question. For me, the biggest downside is just that the sensor isn't very good. If the system used the Dexcom G6 like the T-Slim X2 did, then it would be a no-brainer to buy the system. That being said, I still might recommend it. It really just depends on your situation. If you're in a situation where you've hit your deductible or your max out of pocket and you know next year you're not likely going to, then I maybe would consider it. If you believe that you're going to hit your deductible or your max out of pocket next year, I'd probably wait. The reason for that is that the 780G is going to come out, and the 780G is going to be pretty awesome. So the 780G is going to take everything that the 670G did and just improve on it drastically. I think it's actually still going to use the same sensor, but it's going to have a different transmitter and it's going to use a different algorithm. So accuracy is supposed to be improved. It's going to have Bluetooth, so you'll be able to like share your numbers with friends and family like you can on the Dexcom. I'm really hoping that means less calibrations, because you still have to calibrate a ton with the 670G. So with this new algorithm, it's gotten approved for non-adjunctive use, which means that you don't need to verify your blood sugar with a finger stick before you make a bolus. And that also means that they've been able to automate correction boluses. So if you forget to figure for a meal, then it can do that for you. Obviously, you'll still rise, but it'll catch it. I'm sure you've realized that a lot of these new and improved features are mostly just software, which it's got to be frustrating for someone who's going to buy a 670G this year and have the 780G come out next year and have it essentially be the same pump with the same hardware other than the transmitter. And really the only difference is software, but you miss out on so many features because of software. And that's something else that's going to be awesome about the 780G, is that it's going to have updatable software, similar to the Tandem T-Slim X2. So yeah, guys, I guess that's my thoughts. It was good. It wasn't great. There definitely were some frustrations, but improved blood sugar is always awesome. And like I said, those nights were just incredible about not having to go low unless I was just way off on my calculations, or not waking up super high and feeling like trash. It was good. It was good. So guys, as I'm getting this channel started, please just do me a huge favor. Like, subscribe, comment, do everything that you can to help out the YouTube algorithm to get this video pushed out to a wider audience. This video as well as future videos. And speaking of future videos, I want to make videos about like insulin price crisis, my thoughts on that, and also compare like the Dexcom G6 versus the Guardian Connect. Talk about like the Tide Pool loop. But if there's any subjects that you guys would like videos on, please just leave it down in the comments below. Okay, thanks for watching, guys. Again, please like, subscribe, and comment. Thanks. Bye.